All aboard! Next stop, Chicago Junction.
Oh, excuse me.
And welcome to Chicago Junction, the radio program that is about the amazing world of railroading. I am your announcer, Brian Ballou, and here is our boss, the head of the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network, Chief Electrical Engineer, Mr. John DeVita.
Well, thank you very much, Brian. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another broadcast of Chicago Junction from the John DeVita Broadcast Center on the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network and Jack FM 89.7 WRHS FM Norwich on Friday, September the 14th, the year 2018. Today, the panel will be talking about railroads and model railroads. And now to start today's broadcast, here's our announcer, Mr. Brian.
Thank you, John. Now our chief dispatcher is still on the mend, Mr. Jack Redwine, and we put out a hearty get well soon. So I have lost the coin toss, and I am the partial ringleader for tonight. So I am Brian Ballou, your announcer. Try to be ringleader and trying to hold it together myself. I am a railroad hobbyist, rail fan, work on steam locomotives, work on Lionel trains. I do Operation Lifesaver as a presenter and enjoy working with that program. And I am going to give the left to Mr. Dave DeRuska.
Yes, I am.
Yes, you are.
I am. Dave DeRuska. Retired locomotive engineer, keeper of the Facebook page for Chicago Junction, blogger of Chicago Railroad history, and the ringleader and seemingly sole person who wants to declare November Chicago Railroad History Month. It's a long haul, believe me.
Good evening. My name is Kevin Berry. I'm a retired Chicago police sergeant, lifelong Lionel collector and operator, and a director with the Chicagoland Lionel Railroad Club.
Hi, I'm Ron Stock, retired library director, HO modelist, and overall trained foamer.
Well, okay.
Yeah, we're fascinated by
Sorry to
watching
catch you that way.
Brian shuffling papers over here.
Okay. How shall we get this started today?
Let's start with this.
Oh, yeah. Kevin, give us the story.
You are looking at my birthday present.
Cool.
Tuesday, I became a year older, and I've been asking my wife and kids all summer, to include Father's Day and my birthday, to contribute towards this. Atlas O obtained the molds for the Weaver military car set. It is a hospital car with a small troop kitchen in the hospital car. It is a troop kitchen which would feed the soldiers returning to wherever their point of debarkation was, to the train station, major train station closest to their home, and then a Pullman troop sleeper. And the Pullman troop sleeper has tremendous detail on it. There are actually the 3-tier bunks inside of it. And that was how the actual troop sleepers were set up. And there would normally be passenger cars along with it, and depending on the number of troops traveling, they would the personnel assigned to that car would either spend all of their time in that car, and during the daylight hours, the bunk, the middle bunk, would fold down and become the back of a seat for troops to sleep in, or there were some troop sleepers that were set up with hammocks in them instead of rigid military bunks, and if there were a lot of troops being moved, they would hot bunk. Somebody would have the bunk for 8 hours, and somebody else would be in a seat in a passenger car for 8 hours.
Hot rack was the proper term.
Yes, sir. Yes, Chief.
Yeah, the hammocks were all for the sailors.
The hammocks were for whoever was lucky enough to crawl up into one. But I have seen a Pullman troop sleeper in Grand Haven, Michigan, New Haven, Michigan, by the I Love Trains. It's within a couple of miles of the the old location of I Love Trains, and it's open. You can walk in, and they have the 3-bunk set in there. Only one, unfortunately, and then a small table bolted to the wall and a potbelly stove. I think they did the best they could trying to get it back to where it was originally. There is a troop sleeper car up at Union, but the last time I was up there, it was not open to the public. It was just on static display. I've been remiss in getting up there the last couple of years.
No, first time I got up close and personal was with the kitchen car. We have one at the Pacific Southwest Railway Museum, and it's been fully restored.
And they're World War II Army olive drab with black roofs, and really crisp markings, and they're worth the $90 a car.
Oh, they look very good.
And they, other than being on the track that they're displayed on right now so that all the panelists can enjoy looking at them, they have not been on track, but they're going to be on track Saturday. Saturday will be the first open house of the season for Chicagoland Lionel Railroad Club. And I just haven't decided whether the President Washington is going to be pulling them or a couple of F3 Rock Island diesels are going to be pulling them.
Well, then I'll just have to wait and see.
Take pictures.
Yes. Definitely.
Didn't the Monon buy a bunch of ex-Army cars and convert them for passenger service?
Well, some of them did convert them for passenger service, and they also, you noticed a lot of them ended up in work train service.
Okay.
There should be a fourth car with this consist. There is a baggage car, and it was offered either undecorated, Burlington, or Baltimore and Ohio. The only one that my son was able to locate for me is a Burlington. And he talked to the lady from the place that was selling it, and she said there wouldn't be a baggage car with a military train. And he says, that's the way it was offered, that's the way my dad wants it.
Well, no, what it was, though, a lot of like you say, the baggage cars, and because of what went into the war effort, when they were redoing a lot of the trains, the cheap baggage car, boom, and put them to good use.
Well, it's a 4-car set, so the fourth car will arrive sometime middle of next week. But I'm really looking forward to get these out and run.
Yeah, they look real nice. The detail on the trucks are very good.
Yeah, they have tremendous detail on them, And then each car also has a small clear plastic bag with other pieces to be added that wouldn't ship well. But it actually has air hoses in that for both ends of the car. You know.
That's good. That's
yeah.
really nice.
Yeah.
No, they are
Really cool.
And they're all Pullman built, right?
I don't want to say yes because I might be wrong, but I believe you are correct.
No, I was inquiring.
Well-
some of the others might have done it too.
Yeah. I don't really know, and I don't want to put misinformation out there. I do that often enough unintentionally. You know.
You must be a friend of our host, Jack Red Ryan.
My knowledge of trains might fill a 2-quart thermos, where your knowledge of trains would make the Encyclopedia Britannica look like an afternoon read.
Well,
That on these, they even went to the point of stenciling the warnings that would appear on the outside face of the doors at each end of the car. So I mean, it's really, really, really well done.
yeah.
Now I got to go see if I can find a Solido Dodge ambulance to go with it. Otherwise, I'm going to have to take a 5-quarter ton and paint some white squares and red crosses on the sides of the canvas.
And MASH 4077.
No, I mean, if you look around hard enough, you can find 143 World War II vehicles. One of the guys found 4 towed 8-inch artillery pieces. He says his biggest problem was, number 1, all the instructions were in Japanese. Number 2, not every pin had a hole to fit into. We wound up having to figure out where they were and mark them and drill holes into the pieces for the alignment pins to drop into. But yeah, I'm very happy to have them.
All right.
And they appear to have Brian's seal of approval, so that just makes them double special.
Okay. So,
That's because you're special, Brian.
oh,
You're just one special guy.
oh, Captain Insano.
So somebody else do something, and then I got a couple of things that I printed out, and I can get to those later.
Somebody else do something.
Yeah, Dave, say something.
Television, so we can sing and dance. Oh, okay. Amtrak to Congress. Trains will run on January 1st. Amtrak had been threatening to stop running trains on tracks that did not have operational positive train control. And there had been, Congress had passed a train control exempt for certain routes, and Amtrak was trying to go against that, or at least that's what the information that was provided by Trains Magazine said, that they were going to not run trains on certain routes, including the Cardinal, the Zephyr, the Texas Eagle, the Downeaster, the Vermonter, the Ethan Allen, and the City of New Orleans. So in testimony before House Transportation and Infrastructure Rail Subcommittee, Amtrak's Executive Vice President and CEO, Scott Naparstek, said that the railroad is developing alternative ways to reach elevated levels of safety. While the risk analysis process and mitigation plan development is still underway, let me be clear that Amtrak's goal is to continue to operate all of our services over all of our current routes come January 1st, 2019.
Oh, Mr. Anderson, let him say that?
I guess there was so much stink, especially from certain members of Congress, that the routes that were going to be canceled are on, that Amtrak stood up to the original agreement. You know, they were trying to renege on this agreement on how they were going to run trains if they set up this what did they call it? They had some sort of something in place, developing alternative ways to reach elevated levels of safety. And one of the routes is where the Southwest Chief runs.
Yep.
And Amtrak has been trying to rationalize the breaking it up with a bus bridge. In its presentation to local officials, Amtrak stated it would require PTC for this segment for long-term operation, with an estimated $23 million in installation costs and $3.5 million in annual operating costs. By identifying PTC equivalencies for main track exemptions, Amtrak is admitting what rail passengers have been arguing all year, that there are lower cost alternatives to ensuring the safety of the chief's passengers. So that piece of track only Amtrak operates on. I think it's a BNSF track, but BNSF does not operate any trains on there.
What it is, when BNSF merged with Santa Fe, they siphoned all the Santa Fe traffic off as they could through the years. And so they're minimal. I mean, they still have service on there, but not like they did.
Right. Well, it seems at this point that the Southwest Chief is still going to exist, but Amtrak is trying mightily to destroy Amtrak, or at least the new people in there.
Mr. Anderson.
Right, Mr. Airline Industry.
And I'm sitting there, geez, didn't we see something like this before with the commuter airlines and the regional buses that all of a sudden disappeared?
Yeah. News from Metra. No fare hike this time, but cuts are ahead without state funding. The Metra Board of Directors voted to not raise fares for 2019, but Metra Chairman Norm Carlson warned that unless there is more state funding, while sounding the alarm about the system's deterioration and possible drastic changes in service levels if that funding does not materialize. And one of the things that Metra is threatening to completely stop service on a line. Now, what that might be, they didn't say. My guesses would be Blue Island branch line on the Metro Electric, which has extremely low passengers. I don't think they could get away with completely eliminating service on the Southwest or the Heritage. So I'm thinking that the electric district is probably going to be the take the brunt of any cuts that are made if it's made. Now, who knows where the money's going to come from the state? If and when. It's all going to depend on who's elected as governor and where they're going to be able to dig the money up. Obviously, the federal government is not involved in providing operating funding for anything. All their funds go to physical improvements and not to operating expenses. So it's going to be an interesting 2019 for Metra and their passengers. So I'll stop there for now. Anybody else got anything?
The new Lenox train station is now a fond memory. It's been moved from its site to the farm. It's gone. You got a 3-page write-up in the local newspaper.
Yeah, anybody following that, it was pretty interesting how they moved it. They put it on wheeled dollies that are actually remote controlled operated. Didn't require it being hauled by a truck or anything. So they brought this thing through, moved power lines, did all kinds of stuff, and did it successfully. It was quite a feat.
Where did it end up?
There's a tourist attraction kind of farm, not too far from there. That I think they have some restored farm buildings there. They're going to use it as part of their display.
Well, the last 3 weekends, the Lincoln funeral car was on display up in Antioch. They've ended up having about over 5,700 people come through, even though, it was open, but, not too many people drove it. It got taken up on Monday, and they have it all set to roll, and they took it to on its way to its new home in Elizabethtown, Pennsylvania. It's going to be with the Leviathan.
Operating or just static display?
Well, the gentleman wanted to put 5 miles of track around his farm, and his wife said, no.
the ultimate model railroad.
Basically, that's it. But they do have track near that area, so they conceivably could do it.
Yeah. It'd be a shame.
Well, because where Elizabethtown is between York and Lancaster. That's where it's located. So you got a couple areas up there. New Freedom, where the York, the other locomotive they built, York, is running. So the Leviathan could run with it.
Mm. All they have to do is pay for hauling it over there by a truck.
But they had the truck.
Okay.
No, when he sold the Leviathan, the transportation trailers went with it.
Oh, cool.
So all they got to do is get a tractor to haul it.
Yep.
That and the Lincoln car. Because the place where it's at, the homestead he's on, is used for corporate events and weddings and such.
So it's kind of like the Lionel Club. You take your equipment to another railroad and you run it over there, and then you take it back home.
Yeah.
With some difficulty.
Just a little bit more carefully.
Just a little bit.
But the Age of Steam Roundhouse going strong. The locomotive, the Moorhead and North Fork 060, that was purchased and has been worked on for the last few years, finally ran this year. Fired her up, took her outside, and just a few minor adjustments needed to be made after the testing. Nice coal burner. Mid-Continent is currently working to complete the 1385, the 460.
That's the one up in Wisconsin, right?
Yeah, that's the one in Wisconsin.
And they got flooded out again.
Yes, they did. But not as deep this time around.
The 1385 used to haul the circus train into Milwaukee, correct?
They did that, yes, with the they did it with the F units, the presidential Fs.
Well, they made it all the way to the Northwestern Station. That train sat there on display once.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was brought the circus train in.
Yeah.
All the way from Baraboo.
I think I have that train making that trip on DVD on the shelf at home. And I've seen it on Channel 11 a bunch of times.
Huh.
But yeah, I've also got I got the Mark I video that of the circus train with the steamer on the front.
You got anything about this Santa Fe 2926?
I do. I know. I've just finished reading some info on it. They've actually fired her up.
Yeah, for the first time since the 1950s. About 100 people gathered in the gray, drizzling early morning rain to watch for the first time in decades the boiler of the old locomotive fired up at the 8th Street Workyard of the New Mexico Steam Locomotive and Railroad Historical Society. So what do they plan on doing with that?
Well, they were actually planning on running and actually going up the old branch line to Santa Fe. And follow the route of the Roadrunner.
Now, are they going to be able to PTC equip that? Ha ha ha.
Yes, they can.
Will they? Do they have the money for it?
Well,
It's
that's
expensive.
why they're holding a lot of bake sales.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Lots of cupcakes, cookies.
Lake Superior News, the Sioux Line Locomotive 2719 that has been in Duluth for more than a decade is making weekend treks up to two harbors and back on the North Shore Scenic Railway. But before it was in Duluth, the steam was owned by the city of Eau Claire, which now wants it back. This 462 steam locomotive, built in 1923, ran for the Sioux Line Railroad. After retiring from service in 1960, it was donated to Eau Claire and put on display in the city park. It sat there until 1996, when a group took possession, restored it, and was running it. Ran for a couple years, but railroad industry changed, and we're welcoming steam-powered excursions anymore, said the Lake Superior Railway Museum executive director. So the engine sat in a roundhouse in Altoona, Wisconsin, not Pennsylvania, and until Union Pacific tore down the roundhouse. So we reached a deal to lease the locomotive, move it to Duluth. It ran between Duluth and Two Harbors until its boiler license expired. Railroad eventually replaced 2719 with steam locomotive number 28, which once it was restored last year. When the boiler license of 2719 expired, the museum became aware that the nonprofit group they leased the locomotive from no longer existed. So the museum went to the city of Eau Claire 3 years ago, asked if there was a contract clause with the nonprofit that the city could buy it back from them for $1. Bueller told Eau Claire officials the engine deserves to be in the museum. We'll take care of it. We'll eventually restore it and we'll run it again. But we need to own it to do it. City eventually agreed to sell the locomotive to the museum for $2, but with a stipulation. Eau Claire had 3 years to buy it back from the museum for $4.
Inflation.
Shortly before the clause expired, on August 2nd, Eau Claire notified the museum its intentions of buying the locomotive back. At the June meeting, Eau Claire Council approved a resolution to get an extension on the purchase to explore funding costs of reacquiring the locomotive. Eau Claire city manager said, "We are actively working on plans to bring the train back to the city of Eau Claire." Councilor David Strobel said he believes the museum has done a good job of taking care of the engine, but it was never supposed to leave the city of Eau Claire in the first place. It belongs to the city. It deserves to see it come back. There are a lot of people here that have a big connection with that train. If plans did fall through to move the engine back, Bueller said the museum would take it back. We are a museum, and this is what we do. We protect artifacts of history. Artifacts like this are welcome in our museum. Of course, we would take it back without even batting an eye.
So, did Eau Claire have a bake sale to raise that $4?
I hear they're working on it.
They want to bring it back to Eau Claire and stuff it and mount it and let it rot in the park.
There you go. There you go.
Good for them.
All right.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh.
The city of Durango.
Oh.
This is so good.
Yeah, this is. I love it. Send lawyers, guns, and money.
That is it.
Or just lawyers.
There are people now in the town of Durango that are suing the Durango Silverton Railroad because they were the ones that started the forest fire, because they burned coal.
Oh, is it break time?
Oh, my God. We are having so much fun.
Station identification.
Stand by for part 2 of the story.
You're listening to Chicago Junction on Jack FM 89.7, WRHS FM Norwich, and the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network from the John DeVito Broadcast Center on Fridays, September the 14th, the year 2018. And this is Jack FM 89.7 WRHS FM, Norridge, Illinois. And now back to Chicago Junction and our panel.
Thank you, John. As we're coming back, yes, the city of believed that it was the coal fires.
Well, it wasn't the city; it was residents of the city,
Residents
and business owners.
Certain residents and business
Right,
owners.
probably business owners and residents who lost their buildings.
Maybe. And they believe the whole fire was caused by the coal-burning steam locomotive. And the railroad made no changes to their operating order to prevent what had happened.
Now they recently purchased diesels, right?
They had a couple of diesels. They've already had a couple of 44-tonners. You're going to probably have to triple head the 44-tonners to pull one of those regular trains up the grade. But yeah, and then they've got a 490 they're pulling in the shops for rebuilding, and they're converting it to oil. But sparks actually come out of an oil burner too.
Right.
Can I ask a really uninformed question?
Yep.
Were any of the fires within a quarter mile of the tracks?
Yes.
So,
I mean, look at the fires.
worst case scenario, it might have been.
Well, yeah, they can't positively deny.
I know you
The
can't
theory.
prove a negative.
But the thing is, look at the fires that were being set in California away from the tracks, but you look, it goes through a lot of rail country. And, got fires on both sides. Could them diesels have started it? Yeah.
Yeah, they could.
But they were already burning before they got to the tracks. So, and that's why, like one of the guys showed how he fought the fire. The fire started after that engine passed. I know it did.
Oh yeah,
They had a guy out there with a 250-gallon tank.
and a garden hose.
You saw that picture too?
Oh yeah, Smokey the Bear. He was
Leave
out
Smokey out of it.
No, but that's the way a lot of it is.
there. There's
But
a,
there's one thing though that we should celebrate.
What?
1948,
yes,
they had a Chicago Railroad show. Remember that?
the railroad fair. Oh yeah.
Yeah, they had the railroad fair. And they actually had the front page here.
There is a pennant from that hanging in the back shop out at the train club.
But several of the locomotives that were there, here we go. From the story, the Chicago Rail Fair. By the way, this is all from Headlights and Markers, the Cincinnati Railroad Club,
Ah.
which is celebrating its 80th anniversary this year.
Cool.
They still haven't moved into the Tower A because the rent has gone astronomical. The bank is running it, and not the museums.
Uh-oh, banks and lawyers.
Yep.
What a combination.
Blame the
Here we go, it's a
blame
wonder-
the teachers.
Wonderful world. Anyway, the Chicago Northwestern organized a celebration for its 100th anniversary. The laying of the first rails out of the Windy City. The original Galena and Chicago Union tracks ran west from Chicago through the state to Galena, Illinois, where a major lead mine was located. The G and CU later became part of the Chicago Northwestern system. The original G and CU locomotive, the Pioneer, was restored for the occasion, which can be happily seen in the Chicago Historical Society's building.
And I can post a picture of me sitting in the engineer's seat.
Ooh! All right. As planning for a celebration progressed, over 30 railroads that serve Chicago. Why doesn't Chicago have a Rail History Month?
Good question.
Dave has been. You've been doggedly
I've
trying.
been beating my head against the wall. I've got a application for an official proclamation. I think I filed it online with the city, with the mayor's office, and I'm hoping to hear something by October. But there won't be a big celebration this year.
But we can start next year if we
Yeah,
get it.
right.
Maybe we can get Thomas back on the Channel 11.
WTTW.
Thank you. Well, I keep thinking of WYCC.
That was nice when it was around.
Dead.
No, it's actually still here.
Well, TTW took it over.
Okay, so they're the ones showing the MHC,
Yeah, right.
the foreign shows.
Foreign detective shows.
Yeah, and they're
Right.
neat. Oh, you should see the Italian version of Nero Wolf.
Lots of spaghetti.
Anyway,
With clam sauce.
the planning celebration progressed with 30 railroads serving Chicago becoming interested. The celebration quickly grew to a major expo. Land near the Illinois Central Terminal in South Lakeshore Drive was chosen, and IC laid out a huge yard on the spot. There would be dozens of display tracks for equipment, engines, and other railroads, running several tracks daily for railroad history pageants. Oh, this is the one that Disney and Ward Kimball went to, and I have pictures of. But
now the land that they built it on was there already from the World's Fair.
right.
So they just reutilized this vacant land for another fair.
And then among the machinery on display, one of the Milwaukee Road bipolar electrics. Number 999, New York Central Empire State Express, first locomotive to run over 100 miles an hour, which England says we didn't. No, they said the first locomotive to run 100 miles an hour was the Flying Scotsman in 1938.
How could they tell? They don't use miles.
Well, see, they did. Yes, they do. They have mile posts, not kilometer posts.
Well,
Number 3, the General. They had number 25, the Mason William from the B&O. St. Paul and Pacific, William Crooks, number 1. 635, the Pennsylvania Reuben Wells, an 010 OT. The Madison, Indiana Hill engine, which can be seen in the Children's Museum in Indianapolis. Yeah, it's just like the Zephyr, buried in the basement. Northern Pacific, 040 Minnetonka. Again, the CB&Q, Pioneer Zephyr. And it says American Freedom Train here, but in 1947 it was the Freedom Train with the Alco PA on lead. In there. Teller painting. And the 47, they say the 1947 Freedom Train, they call it American Freedom Train, but it was Freedom Train. It was a prototype for AFT, from 1975, 1976. And the Freedom Train visited 326 cities. Among its displays were the Declaration of Independence, the Bill of Rights, one of the original copies of the Constitution, the Emancipation Proclamation, Gettysburg Address, the Iwo Jima flag, the German and Japanese surrender documents that ended World War II. Other replicas at the expo were the Best Friend of Charleston, John Bull, DeWitt Clinton, Tom Thumb, which reenacted the famous B&O 1827 race, and the Jupiter in 119 in daily reenactment ceremonies for the Golden Spike. The daily pageant was told the story of railroad expansion in the U.S., especially opening of the West. A film of this pageant can be found on the internet, complete with music and narration, at www.chicagofilmarchives.org. Collections, / index.php / detail / object / show / object underline ID / 2651. Worth watching.
Yeah, you got that all down now. I hope you're writing. Hope you at home were writing really fast.
Okay, Uncle Brian, you mentioned
Yes.
Thomas the Tank Engine. How many years has Thomas the Tank Engine been on television?
Okay, TV. He was bought in 1990. Say 91, 92.
Okay.
There was a show.
First story is 70 years old,
Yes, the first story.
and then it's coming.
It came to the U.S. in story form on public television through Shining Time Station.
Yes, it did.
And it was introducing the kid to Thomas the Tank Engine. The gentleman who played Mr. Conductor in the first couple series, first two series, was the gentleman that had the stories read to him as a kid, and he wanted to give it to the Americans because Reverend Aubrey's from Great Britain.
Yes.
And the first Mr. Conductor was Ringo Starr.
Who was doing his public service as a result of a court action. Thomas
Hope it didn't involve children.
Thomas has this year will be receiving 2 new engine companions, a female diesel engine in passenger service, and another tank engine. And the diesel passenger service engine is a very proper female British diesel. And Thomas is going to go on a world tour where he will meet a Kenyan tank engine who will also be female. And girls can do anything that boys can do. And it was
It's a new movie.
it was a major piece on CBS Sunday Morning a week ago Sunday. But the current producer is hoping that Thomas will go another 70 years.
Now, 70 years ago is when he was first introduced. You asked when it was introduced in the U.S.
Yeah, and that would have been when I was still in college, which was 45 years ago.
No. It was introduced. Thomas the Tank Engine was introduced in this country in the 90s,
Okay.
in the early 90s.
Okay.
I was watching Pee Wee Herman back then.
You probably were. I received an email from the 20th Century Railroad Club reminding people that they have a trip to the Heston Steam Museum and Spicer Lake Preserve coming up on Saturday, October 6th, leaving that morning from Millennium Station and traveling to Michigan City, Indiana. Their website is www.20thcentury.org. It's $99 for adults, $49 for children under 14, and mini critters under 2 are free. It doesn't say anything about food or anything like that, but I'm sure you can find more at the 20th Century Railroad Club website.
Very good. Also, if the people want to get some cinders in their hair, this is the weekend coming up for the Joliet Rocket, and I realize we won't probably be on the air until after the trip.
We won't.
But Joliet Rocket leaving from Joliet to LaSalle Street Station on Saturday and Sunday, both Monday in the mornings and in the afternoon. So I will probably be a little late getting to the open house on Saturday because I'll be standing trackside to get a nice picture of the engine going by on Route 30.
30 in Cedar, where the old station used to be.
No, I'll be a little bit closer. I'll be probably across from McDonald's.
Okay.
Now,
Hey, what about Ron? We're leaving Ron out here. He hasn't said anything.
Yeah, I got a couple of things.
He's been drooling over pictures.
Oh.
Actually, most of it is drooling over pictures, which is hard to describe on radio. TV would have been wonderful. Anyway, I just picked this up on Wednesday. It was Railroad Illustrated 2018 annual, so it's pretty hot off the presses. They have several good articles, one of which actually kind of brought back memories of my childhood. They have an article written by Mike Raina, R-A-I-A, and it's entitled Friday Nights on the South Shore.
Michael Rhea.
Pardon me?
Michael Rhea.
Rhea, okay.
R-H-I-A, Rhea.
Yeah. And the reason how it related to me, my folks, probably in the 60s, we would go over and stand by the, by the Chicago bridges and where the IC and also the IC did freight switching there, and back then, and also the South Shore was there. And watched the trains for probably 2-3 hours with Mom and Dad. So that was my first introduction to railroading, and we did that quite often on a Friday night. It was always pretty active, and if we didn't go there, we ended up going to Navy Pier to watch the boats come in. And the weird part there was seeing these strange Japanese cars coming in and not realizing that eventually Toyota would take over the world.
The photo that you're looking at, you can just right above where your left hand is,
Yes?
you can just barely make out the large yellow decal, the little train that could.
Ah,
I remember seeing those quite often, and I actually have that train set made by K-Line. I only have the 2-car set. I didn't have the foresight when it was being offered to grab more than 2. But
yeah, they were cool. I mean, all the equipment that they ran was always interesting for most of the time. Since it was, especially the IC, the Illinois Central, there was yard switching operations, so they were all pretty much diesels, the switch engines that they were using. But the article is a little bit more recent. It's 1984, but he does relate back to 57 and some and a little bit back in the 67 too, and probably that was the time period that I was going there at the time. In addition to that, they have, which was really cool, having taken the Empire Builder, they have an article about the Montana's magnificent Marias Pass, which is, of course, famous Great Northern Route pass, along with various times of year. There are a lot of snow sheds and tunnels and other things along there, which was quite scenic. If you take the current day Empire Builder. They have also an article about El Cajon and talking about that coming in, which I've been on. If you take the Southwest Chief, you're usually on that. Unfortunately, most of the time now, I think when they run it, it's like at least heading into LA, it's like 6 in the morning or 5 in the morning, so it's kind of dark half the time you go through. It's even in the summer months compared to other times of the year. Anyway, it's a really nice nice magazine to if you're a railroader and you want to pick up. Got a lot of terrific pictures in it. I also picked up within the last week or so the Passenger Train Journal, which has more articles kind of depressing about Amtrak, which has already been covered by Brian and Dave. And they do a real thorough job on railroad transportation. For obviously passenger. And then the other thing that was interesting, news in Canada isn't much better than in the U.S. Their major railroad from Toronto to Vancouver is running as much as 48 hours late, which isn't too good for, especially according to this article, a lot of the European railroad buffs like taking that train, and then they missed their connections to hotels and other things that they were hoping to see in Canada. So I still like to do that sometime before I kick the bucket. Plus, they have most of the American passenger cars on their on the Canadian Railroad via.
Well, yeah, via
Yeah,
the Canadians all Bud.
Yeah, right. So, and now you don't even see them on based on Amtrak isn't running the private varnish, so.
Oh, they're running it, but we haven't won the $100 million lottery.
Ah.
Yeah, they
Well, that's true.
place great demands on the private car owners.
Yes, and the thing is, yeah, I mean if I had a car and I kept it for the night in Chicago,
Mhm.
they are actually pricing the stations, I guess by popularity or something like that. What I pay in Washington is different from what I pay in Chicago.
Oh.
They will charge me $600 a night in Chicago with no services. That's, the owners aren't really happy about that.
No, I don't think so.
Considering they took a cash cow and says, we don't need it.
Yeah.
And, I mean, when he said no special trains, there were people going in to start making arrangements for the Toys for Tots trains.
Yeah.
And that was, yeah, no special trains. So a couple of the Toys for Tots trains that aren't traveling on a different railroad, but on Amtrak trackage, you're talking about 60,000 people that'll be affected by the lack of a Toys for Tots train for the Christmas holidays.
Right.
60,000
People.
travelers or 60,000 children?
60,000 people, families, will be affected the holiday season.
Well, maybe they can move the toys by bus.
Yeah.
That's Amtrak's solution. Bus them.
Yeah.
You mentioned the Passenger Train Journal. They're having a 50th anniversary train.
Yes.
The White River Rocket, special charter on Metro's Rock Island District on September the 29th, which includes a luncheon at the Joliet Union Station. Return to Chicago in time to visit the Loop, enjoy dinner on your own, and then they have a bunch of speakers in the Burlington Room at the Chicago Union Station, presentations by well-known historians and photographers. Seats are limited, so order your tickets today. Tickets are $125. And most of this stuff is on our Facebook page. So if you're interested, scroll through our Facebook page or do a search on Passenger Train Journal, and it should pop up.
Well, I guess we should have a good note to close on. This is from the Reading Lines Crusader, from the Reading Company Technical and Historical Society. One, they have their museum in Hamburg, Pennsylvania. It's celebrating its 10th anniversary this year. They've got a lot of good things going on. But one of the things that's always been brought up, how do we interest the younger generation? Well,
Take away their cell phones.
that could probably be
Kill
it.
the Wi-Fi.
Well, a unique thing came up in Reading. And on Sunday afternoon, on July 29th, 2018, the Reading Skate Park Association unveiled a railroad-themed skateboard design to honor the history of the Reading Railroad. The skateboard features a green and yellow Reading Railroad caboose. Emblazoned on the caboose is the Reading Pagoda and the words Reading Skate Park Association. A black and white map of the Reading between Philadelphia and Reading is in the background behind the caboose. The idea for the railroad-themed skateboard came about when John Coles and his dad Barry were in Richmond, Virginia, and saw an image of a Conrail locomotive on a skateboard. Coles then contacted our museum to make sure everything was correct, and we received good coverage of the event in the Reading Eagle the following Monday. The boards are for sale at the Holistic Skate Shop.
Holistic?
Holistic.
Not holistic.
Yeah. Or it could be Holistic Skate Shop in West Reading, Pennsylvania. Initially, only about 50 boards are made for sale, but if there is a demand, more will be made. The boards will cost $60, and $5 from each sale will then be donated to our museum. Cole said he wasn't sure if the coupling of a skateboard and railroad would be welcomed, but we saw it as a partnership, as an opportunity for people to get to know about the museum, especially young people. It is suggested that you don't have to be a skateboarder to buy the caboose deck. People who are interested in history should have it even hanging on the wall as a piece of art. So there's one way to do it.
Labor Day weekend, my daughter and her husband and the grandkids came up from St. Louis, and we wanted to do something, and I couldn't find the train schedule for Metra, so we wound up jumping on the CTA Orange Line at Pulaski and rode it down to Roosevelt Road and came back. It was sort of a grungy day. It was wet and rainy, but the kids liked the trains. My 3-year-old grandson said, "Papa, this is great." And as a kicker, they got to look out the window when we got to the Halsted Street stop, and the train stopped right opposite Chicago skyline, and all 3 of their helicopters were sitting out on the tarmac. So, they went on their first real train ride. Thomas is nice, but it's on a closed circuit. But they got to ride the Orange Line, and I promised them the next time they come up, I'll do a little more leg work and get a time schedule, and we'll ride the Metra.
For anybody who wants to get any more information about the skateboard or the Railroad Museum itself, it could be at www.readingrailroad.org. If you go east, it'll be a nice place to stop off.
Maybe we should close out with Ron's display there. What do you got there, Ron?
Yeah.
In front of you, your
Yeah.
thing.
Oh,
What's that thing?
my
It's a thing.
pickle plant.
Oh, it is a thing.
It's a pickle thing.
I worked in one summer.
Oh, really?
Oh, really?
That's pretty cool. How in your younger days, I assume?
College.
College?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a summer job. It was one of the worst jobs I ever had.
So did it turn you off of eating?
Oh no, I love pickles.
Oh,
I love
okay.
pickles.
So it didn't hurt.
No.
This is Herman's pickle and sauerkraut plant, and it's one in Menard's line of buildings, and it's pre-lit, pre-assembled building. It's constructed of wood and comes complete with wood vats, figurines, barrels, and even Jack the German Shepherd dog. And it has multiple LED lights highlighting the building's intricate details like the moss-covered brick and the fine detailed windows and doors, perhaps. And a unique feature is the electronic Herman's Genuine German Sauerkraut sign. This building illuminates with the addition of a 4.5 volt AC adapter, sold separately. So it's another one of the Menards buildings, and I actually have a couple of pickle cars with the
Ooh.
vats on them, the big vats.
Now, do they have I remember Lionel had the smoking locomotives. Can you put brine in that thing and have it smell like pickles
I don't know.
or sauerkraut? They have a special vat in
Well,
there.
some of them are kind of open. I guess
Oh,
you could
yeah.
probably add some. I don't know if I'd recommend it, but
we put some kimchi in there.
Oh, okay.
oh,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Oh my God!
We know this building is post 1918
I went
because it wouldn't have been Herman's Genuine German Sauerkraut prior to 1918.
No,
It'd be Herman's Genuine Liberty Cabbage.
that's true.
They also make that in O gauge, and they have Volkswagen vans that are stenciled with Herman's Pickle Company on the driver doors on the vans.
Cool.
Menard's newest offering in pre-assembled scenery is an alien cow abduction
Oh,
and a
I
flying
gotta get
saucer,
that.
stealing cows.
I gotta get it.
that's
It'll go with my my UFO restaurant.
Yeah, all you have to have is a theremin music playing in the background.
That's it.
There's a photo of it in this month's Classic Toy Trains, and Jack the dog is in that one too. Jack the dog is in almost everything that Menards has got.
I noticed.
I think
that.
Jack's got stock in the company,
I think so too. Because
but there's
Jack's been busy
I
making
bought,
other little Jacks.
I bought the wood furniture one, and I'm looking through, and one of the first things they say is, "And Jack the dog is," and I'm going, "Wait a minute. They have different names for Jack at least?"
Menards is really supporting the model railroading
It
community
is.
quite well. They've done a great job hooking up with Woodland Scenic with all these buildings. There are several of Menards buildings on the layout out in New Lenox. It's a great time to be a kid if you got an adult that'll point you in the right direction.
And pay for everything.
That's what grandpas do.
Yeah.
I think it's reverse psychology. You'd rather spend it on the grandkids than spend it elsewhere. It's not like you go out howling anymore.
I guess on that happy note.
Yeah, looks like the bumping post is approaching rapidly.
Yes, we are rapidly coming in. So on behalf of Dave,
Kevin,
Ron.
and Dave,
And Dave Dave's not here.
Yeah, he is.
And Uncle Brian.
Well, Uncle Brian went by Dave. I'm incognito.
Incorrigible would be more like
Why
it.
don't you go incognito as Red?
Well, happy rails to you. We really got to get that song figured out. If Roy and Dale can do it, we can do it.
Here's some music.
As our express comes into the station, we want to thank you for joining us on our journey through the wonderful world of trains. Chicago Junction is a product of the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network and can be listened to on the web at www.windycityhometown.com, where you can listen to tonight's broadcast on all our past episodes and also some of the other fine programs that are being offered. Again, this is your announcer, Brian Ballou. Until next month, when we journey to Chicago Junction.
You have been listening to Chicago Junction on Jack FM 89.7 WRHS FM Norwich and the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network from the John DeVito Broadcast Center on Friday, September the 14th, the year 2018. Chicago Junction was produced by John DeVito, and our special thanks to radio station manager Kevin Zeflik of WRHF FM Norwich and the executive producer of Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network, Mr. John Chicando. This broadcast was pre-recorded on Thursday, September the 13th, the year 2018. Until next time, friends, please be safe and thanks for listening. And this is Jack FM 89.7 WRHS FM Norwich, Illinois.